In today's world, where almost everyone feels an unspoken pressure to be seen, those who choose to remain unseen are quietly making a powerful statement. The person who never posts their photos is not simply shy, secretive, or insecure. They are often guided by a deeper awareness of themselves and the world. Their silence in the visual noise of social media reveals a rare and stoic quality, the ability to find value within, not from validation outside. We live in an age where self-worth is often measured in likes, followers, and attention. Posting photos has become a ritual, a way to announce I exist and to be reassured that others see and approve of us. Yet there are those who resist this current entirely. They live by a quieter principle, that identity doesn't need to be broadcast to be real. Their confidence is internal, not borrowed. Their peace doesn't depend on the constant refresh of notifications. In Stoicism, this kind of restraint is a form of mastery. The Stoics taught that wisdom lies in distinguishing between what we can control and what we cannot. Public opinion, image, and reputation all lie outside our control. What lies within our control is how we respond to them. The person who doesn't post their photos understands this instinctively. They refuse to hand over their self-image to the unpredictable judgment of the crowd. Instead, they keep their sense of self private, protected, and grounded. It's not that they despise social media or think it's wrong to share. Rather, they recognize the subtle dangers of turning the self into a performance. Every time a photo is posted, a silent negotiation begins between authenticity and approval. We start asking, did I look good enough? Did people notice? Do I matter? The one who abstains from this cycle has freed themselves from an invisible chain. They live unfiltered, not in their feed, but in their mind. This restraint also reflects a powerful sense of detachment, a core Stoic virtue. Detachment doesn't mean disinterest. It means refusing to let external things dictate your internal peace. The person who rarely or never posts their photo has learned that their life does not need to be constantly documented to be meaningful. They focus on living the moment rather than capturing it. Where others chase the perfect angle, they seek a clear mind. Where others worry about how they appear, they care about who they are. Ironically, this quiet approach often makes them more intriguing. Mystery, in a world addicted to exposure, is magnetic. When someone doesn't reveal everything, people start to wonder, not because they are trying to be mysterious, but because their silence contrasts so sharply with the culture of oversharing. Their privacy becomes a form of quiet charisma. They don't need to say, "Look at me," because their absence already speaks volumes. This trait also hints at emotional maturity. To not need to post your image constantly is to be comfortable with being unseen. It's a sign that your sense of identity isn't fragile. You're not anxiously seeking confirmation from others. You're content with being known by a few, understood by fewer, and misunderstood by many, because your peace doesn't depend on being seen correctly. The Stoics would call this apatheia, a state of inner calm that comes from freedom from external disturbance. Moreover, people who don't post photos often have a deeper focus on substance over surface. They understand that showing your life is not the same as living it. Their attention is on personal growth, purpose, or presence, things that cannot be captured in a snapshot. They realize that not every emotion, experience, or achievement needs to be public. Some things gain more meaning when they remain private, like a sacred secret between you and your soul. In a society that constantly screams for attention, the act of not posting becomes a quiet rebellion. It's saying, I do not need to perform to prove that I exist. It's a rejection of the idea that visibility equals value, and it's a reminder that the most powerful people often move in silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand that peace is louder than noise. To those who never post their photos, this silence is not emptiness, it's presence. It's a form of self-respect, a sign of inner confidence, and a quiet alignment with Stoic wisdom. To be well adjusted to a sick society is no measure of health. They've chosen depth over display, meaning over image, and self-mastery over self-marketing. In a world where exposure is mistaken for importance, they remind us of an ancient truth, that the most valuable things in life cannot be seen. They can only be felt, lived, and understood. And in their quiet refusal to be part of the crowd, they embody one of the rarest modern traits of all, true independence of mind. Privacy in the age of exposure is not weakness, it's strength. It's a discipline that few people can truly maintain, because silence and invisibility require a strong sense of identity. The person who doesn't post their photos isn't hiding. They're simply not performing. They've understood that there's a difference between being seen and being known. And being known, truly known, doesn't happen through pixels or filters. It happens through real presence, through character, through energy. In Stoic philosophy, there's a timeless lesson. Control what you can, detach from what you can't. Your online image, once shared, no longer belongs to you. It becomes a public object, shaped by opinions and perceptions. A Stoic-minded person understands this loss of control. That's why they choose to guard their privacy. Not because they fear judgment, but because they respect the sanctity of self. The digital age makes us believe that sharing is power, but in truth, restraint is. Every private person quietly guards something precious: their peace, their authenticity, their mental freedom. People who never post their photos often have a unique relationship with solitude. They're not lonely, they're selective. They prefer genuine connection over superficial visibility. They find comfort in knowing that not everyone has access to them. In Stoic thought, solitude is not a punishment. It's a place of power. It's where the mind becomes clear and the spirit grows strong. When someone doesn't feel the need to constantly show themselves, it's often because they are content in their own company. A rare form of emotional independence. Think about it, posting a photo is an act of exposure. You're inviting the world to comment, compare, and form opinions. It's not inherently wrong, but it's also not neutral. Over time, the habit of constant posting can quietly train your mind to crave approval, to look outward for validation rather than inward for peace. The person who resists this habit, consciously or unconsciously, is practicing emotional discipline. They have built a wall between their inner world and the public gaze, not to isolate themselves, but to preserve what's sacred. Their privacy is not emptiness, it's protection. It's a recognition that the world doesn't need to see everything to validate its worth. In fact, the more private you are, the more authentic your experiences become. When you don't perform your happiness, you live it. When you don't display your growth, you feel it. And when you don't post your face for validation, you discover who you are beyond appearance. That's a deeper kind of self-awareness, the kind that Stoicism teaches through self-observation and inner balance. There's also a humility and privacy that aligns beautifully with Stoic ethics. Stoics believed in modesty, not the kind that denies your value, but the kind that doesn't scream for recognition. A person who doesn't constantly display themselves is, in a way, practicing humility. They don't need applause to feel worthy. Their achievements don't need to be public to be real. They measure success by inner growth, not by outer approval. Ironically, those who protect their privacy often attract deeper curiosity and respect, because mystery, when born of confidence, feels powerful. You can sense that such a person is grounded, that they're not easily swayed by trends, likes, or fleeting attention. They know who they are, and that quiet certainty is magnetic. Stoicism teaches that calmness and restraint carry their own kind of authority. The person who doesn't post their photos often radiates that quiet authority. They don't chase attention, and yet, attention naturally finds them. The deeper reason behind this restraint is alignment. They live in alignment with their values, not with social pressure. They are aware of the modern world's addiction to exposure, but they don't feel the need to participate in it. This awareness gives them an almost ancient kind of strength. The same strength the Stoics practiced when they withdrew from noise and focused on the inner life. So when someone never posts their photos, it's not that they're invisible. It's that they've chosen depth over display. They've realized that the truest version of themselves cannot be captured by a camera or measured in engagement metrics. It can only be experienced in silence, in actions, and in presence. In a sense, their privacy becomes their philosophy. It's a quiet declaration that says, "I am enough even when unseen." And that, in a world desperate for attention, is one of the most powerful and Stoic statements a person can make. To understand why some people never post their photos, we need to look beyond behavior, into psychology. What drives someone to remain unseen in a world that celebrates exposure? The answer often lies in emotional intelligence, deep self-awareness, and a refined sense of purpose. These individuals operate differently because they think differently. They aren't driven by the external need to appear significant. They are fulfilled by being significant in their own quiet way. Modern psychology suggests that constant sharing often arises from a subtle need for validation, a desire to be acknowledged, liked, or admired. But those who avoid it tend to have already fulfilled that need internally. They don't depend on others to define their worth. Their self-image is rooted in who they are, not how they appear. This psychological independence is powerful. It gives them stability in a world that's emotionally fragile. People who stay unseen often display a rare combination of traits: introspection, mindfulness, and emotional detachment. They're the thinkers, observers, and quiet creators, the ones who reflect before reacting. In Stoic philosophy, such reflection is essential to self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. The less you crave external validation, the freer your thoughts become." For them, silence isn't just absence of speech, it's presence of mind. They use their energy inwardly to understand themselves and the world around them. When they choose not to post, it's not an act of rebellion. It's a psychological filter. They protect their peace by controlling what they share. In that restraint, they maintain sovereignty over their emotions. Psychologically, this also relates to a deeper sense of self-trust. When you constantly seek others' opinions, you weaken your connection to your own intuition. People who stay unseen trust themselves enough not to need public feedback. They live guided by their own compass, not the collective opinion of the internet. This is a form of autonomy, a key marker of emotional maturity. They don't fear invisibility, because they've realized that what truly matters isn't visibility, but authenticity. Another reason lies in their perception of time and meaning. Many of these individuals see social media as transient, a place of noise, distraction, and surface-level engagement. They're drawn instead to what's timeless: real conversations, depth, knowledge, and inner peace. Posting photos offers temporary recognition. Living with purpose offers lasting fulfillment. Their psychology gravitates toward the latter. They also understand how exposure subtly shapes identity. When you constantly curate your image, you begin to perform yourself, to become an actor in your own life, seeking reactions rather than reality. The unseen person avoids this trap. They remain authentic because they've escaped the psychological conditioning of approval. Their actions come from choice, not from fear of being forgotten. Interestingly, research shows that people who are more introverted or introspective tend to find meaning in privacy. Their minds process the world deeply. They don't just experience things, they analyze them, internalize them, and transform them into wisdom. For such minds, constant sharing feels shallow, even exhausting. Privacy becomes a form of psychological rest, a way to keep the sacred parts of their lives untouched by noise. There's also an aspect of humility and ego control here. In Stoic thought, ego is the greatest obstacle to peace. When you stop trying to be admired, you make space to be authentic. People who avoid posting their photos often have mastered this humility. They don't need to prove their beauty, success, or happiness, and because their sense of worth is rooted in something deeper: their integrity, their values, and their inner calm. Psychologically, they've learned what many still struggle to realize: that the need to be seen often masks the fear of being unseen. But when you're grounded, you don't fear invisibility. You embrace it. You understand that the sun doesn't need to announce its rise, nor does the ocean beg to be noticed. True value speaks for itself. Thus, people who remain unseen aren't running from the world, they're simply walking a quieter path through it. Their strength lies in presence, not performance. They're not detached because they're cold. They're detached because they're clear. They've chosen to focus on what they can control: their thoughts, their actions, their peace, and then to release what they cannot: other people's opinions. In the end, this psychological posture reflects the deepest Stoic principle of all: freedom through self-mastery. The unseen person has mastered the art of being enough on their own. They've realized that peace doesn't come from being noticed, but from knowing yourself so well that even silence feels complete. To live as a Stoic in the digital era is to navigate one of the greatest psychological challenges of our time: social media. Never before have humans had such constant access to validation, comparison, and distraction. Platforms that were designed to connect us now quietly test our emotional stability, discipline, and self-awareness every day. For the modern Stoic, the question is not whether social media is good or bad. It's whether we are using it consciously or being used by it. Stoicism teaches us to master ourselves before we attempt to master the world. The person who never posts their photos often embodies this mastery, without even realizing it. They've instinctively learned to resist the pull of constant self-display. They understand that while technology changes, human nature does not. The same ego that once sought fame in the Roman Forum now seeks likes on Instagram. The Stoic's task is to stay centered amid that noise, to participate in the world without being consumed by it. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Apply that to social media, and the wisdom is timeless. You can't control what others post, think, or say, but you can control your relationship to it. A Stoic approach to social media means using it as a tool, not as a mirror. It's the difference between posting with intention and posting for attention. The former expresses, the latter seeks approval. Those who rarely share their images demonstrate this Stoic detachment in a profound way. They use social media mindfully, perhaps for knowledge, creativity, or connection, but not for validation. Their restraint reflects sophrosyne, the Stoic ideal of self-control and moderation. They don't reject technology. They simply refuse to let it shape their identity. This self-discipline is rare because it requires awareness. Awareness of how every click, comment, and post subtly conditions the mind. In Stoic terms, this discipline is freedom. The more you rely on external feedback, the more enslaved you become to it. The less you depend on it, the freer you are to act according to your own reason. The modern Stoic recognizes that true freedom is not deleting all social media. It's maintaining peace while using it. The one who never posts their photos has already found that balance. They interact with the world without needing it to validate their existence. A Stoic perspective also invites reflection before expression. Before sharing, ask, does this serve virtue? Does it align with wisdom, courage, justice, or self-control? Most posts online fail this test. They're impulsive, ego-driven, or emotionally reactive. The Stoic mind, however, pauses. It filters expression through reason. The person who chooses silence instead of constant exposure is practicing this principle beautifully. They've learned that restraint can often speak louder than display. There's also the Stoic idea of focusing only on what truly matters, what is within your control. How others perceive your photos, comments, or content is not in your control. Therefore, obsessing over them only drains your energy. By not posting or by posting rarely, Stoic-minded individuals protect their attention. They invest it where it yields growth, in learning, reflection, and purpose. But this doesn't mean the Stoic withdraws completely from the world. Stoicism isn't isolation, it's intelligent participation. A Stoic can use social media to inspire, educate, or connect meaningfully. The difference lies in intention. Are you expressing your values or displaying your ego? Are you sharing something useful or seeking reassurance? When intention is clear, the act becomes clean. Those who remain unseen have perhaps internalized this wisdom instinctively. They've realized that in a society where everyone wants to be visible, true power lies in being invisible yet aware. Their quietness is not passivity, it's clarity. They choose to live authentically rather than digitally perform. They prefer inner alignment over outer applause. Seneca once advised, withdraw into yourself as far as you can. But he didn't mean to isolate from the world. He meant to stay grounded within yourself while living in it. The modern Stoic who limits self-exposure on social media is living this advice in real time. They're not rejecting the modern world. They're redefining what it means to live wisely within it. In this way, privacy becomes a form of Stoic virtue. It's not about hiding. It's about knowing your value without needing to prove it. It's about understanding that peace is not found in visibility, but in mastery over your attention. The person who never posts their photos may not call themselves a Stoic, but their behavior reveals the same. Inner principle, tranquility through self-control. Ultimately, the modern Stoic approach to social media is not abstinence and it's awareness. Use it, but do not let it use you. Share, but only when it serves truth or virtue. And above all, remember that the most important moments of your life will never be captured by a lens. They'll be lived quietly within. In the end, being unseen in a world that worships visibility is not a weakness, and it is a quiet form of power. The people who never post their photos, who resist the constant urge to showcase themselves, are not hiding from the world. They are simply living in harmony with themselves. They have chosen peace over popularity, depth over display, and presence over performance. This choice, though subtle, reflects a rare kind of strength, the kind that comes from self-awareness. Discipline and emotional independence. The Stoics taught that power lies not in control over others, but in control over oneself. To master your impulses, to silence the need for validation, and to live without the craving for attention, that is real freedom. The person who does not post their photos has, consciously or not, achieved this freedom. They have freed themselves from the invisible chain that ties so many minds to external approval. Their silence is not emptiness, it's mastery. It shows that they have nothing to prove, no one to impress, and no fear of being forgotten. In many ways, their invisibility is a mirror of Stoic wisdom. The Stoic does not seek fame, applause, or admiration. They seek alignment, to live in accordance with nature and reason. They understand that opinions fade, but character endures. Likewise, those who stay unseen are not moved by trends. Their worth is not determined by how many people recognize them, but by how honestly they live. They know that authenticity doesn't require an audience. This kind of quiet strength is increasingly rare in a culture that confuses attention with significance. But the unseen person reminds us of an ancient truth. The loudest presence often hides the weakest self, while the quietest presence often belongs to the strongest. Their calm is not silence, it's stability. Their lack of exposure is not absence, it's focus. They are not lost in the crowd because they've stepped outside it. Watching rather than performing, thinking rather than reacting. The Stoics believed in ataraxia, a state of serene calm, free from disturbance. The unseen person lives close to this state. They move through life untouched by the chaos of public opinion. They know that the world's noise cannot touch the peace that comes from within. They are not chasing the illusion of perfection that social media projects. They are cultivating inner harmony, one quiet day at a time. And this quietness has a ripple effect. People who carry such energy inspire others, not through words or images, but through presence. They remind others that it's okay not to share everything, not to compete, not to constantly announce your life. They remind us that value doesn't decrease when it's unseen. It deepens. Just as the roots of a tree are hidden but essential, their unseen strength supports everything they are. In the end, being unseen is not about disappearing. It's about choosing where to appear. It's knowing that your worth is not public property. It's protecting your inner world from the endless noise of the outer one. It's understanding that the most meaningful experiences and peace, growth, love, purpose, cannot be captured in a photo or explained in a caption. They can only be lived. So, to those who never post their photos, your silence speaks volumes. You carry the dignity of self-restraint in a world of exhibition. You embody the essence of Stoic living, calm, grounded, and self-contained. You've proven that true power does not demand attention. It emanates quietly from within. When the world grows louder, your quietness will only shine brighter. You remind us that there is beauty in mystery, confidence in privacy, and wisdom in restraint. You show us that being unseen is not the same as being unknown, because those who are deeply connected to themselves never truly disappear. They simply exist where it matters most, in their own peace.